at 609-927-1100. And now, here's AC Mike.
Hey, folks, welcome back. Let it go, James. Let it go. Low, go, go. Woo! Wepa! Sunday morning here at the AC Mike Show. Listen, folks, welcome back to the show. Little Van Halen, DLR. Nothing against Sammy, but, man, I'm a DLR guy, bro. So we got two special guests here lined up. They just got the crust out of their eyes. They rolled over. Some rainbows. I see some coffee in somebody's hand. Mark.
My cup.
What? All right. AC Mike cups. I love it, man. Somebody's using it. Hey, Mark WEISSGUY Weiss, welcome to the show. Dave Pena, what's happening, guys?
Hey, thanks a lot. Actually, we had a late night over at Boogie Nights, which was an awesome night. Unbelievable. I haven't been there for, since before the COVID. And it blew my mind. Everyone was having so much fun. There was people, 21 to 65 and even older. Everyone was boogieing. It was great. It was a great time. And then I woke up this morning. He said, "You want a cup of coffee?" I helped myself. And I just picked this mug out of nowhere. And he goes, "Oh, that's Mike." He goes, I literally just grabbed it. It was meant to be. Thanks for having me.
It wasn't staged. I promise you.
No, I gotta be honest. When you guys came in last night to Dave's place, the door was left open. So sometime around 5:30 in the morning, I snuck in and put it the front. No, that's all. That's awesome, man. I love it. Nothing like a fresh cup of coffee out of it. AC Mike coffee. So, Mark, man, welcome back to AC. I mean, you're an AC guy. You got some your installations over there at Hard Rock. I heard there was a great time at Brigada. Listen, so my buddy Constantine Maroulis calls me. He says, "Hey, Mike, I'm going to be doing the Gypsy Bar at 11." And then Dave's telling me, he's like, "Man, Air Supply's over there." And then Mark is coming and Sebastian's in. What the hell was going on in Borgata last night?
Well, yeah, my good friends Air Supply. I did an album cover for them in 1985, and became friendly with them. And every time they come to my neck of the woods, I go visit them, say hi, and talk about doing a new photo shoot. So I was kind of working it a little bit. I'm always working it. It's fun, but I'm working it.
That's right. Well, you know what? That's the one common denominator, I think, between the guy sitting to your right, myself, and everybody in here, and even James, our producer. It's just like you're having fun and you're doing what you do, because it's kind of a blessing to be able to do what we do, whether it's music, photography, radio, TV, and you're always working though. There's always like, well, how can I work this and working and use in a positive way? You know what I mean? To advance. So it's kind of cool when I hear you saying that, because I know you were having a good time, but hey, that's the next photo shoot. So listen, we were talking a little bit this morning with Dave over at Celebrity Corner, one of the sponsors to the AC Mike Show, about the power ballots. Talk to us a little bit about Air Supply, though, because a lot of folks don't really get it. I mean, my age, 50s and 40s, and even now, they're so important to the rock music scene, and I don't think a lot of folks realize that. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, Dave made a good point, and really it kind of opened my eyes to it a little bit. And he's like, if all the 80s bands, the Poisons, the Motley Crue, I mean, everyone, it was in their DNA for the record company to have like the second single or the third single to be the power ballad.
Right.
And listening to all their hits last night, it came from them. And Dave hit the nail on the head. So you want to elaborate on that?
No, I just wanted to say, first of all, it was a dream come true, because I used to watch Air Supply on Solid Gold with my family.
Solid Gold.
You know what I'm saying? So it really was like, it was almost surreal. And actually to be hanging out with Mark and, him and I knowing each other for a long time, working together, it was really a really cool experience. I mean, and the truth is, it struck me last night when I started hearing the guitar solos and the strong voices on power ballads. I realized they created that scene for everybody, and maybe them and REO Speedwagon, but I think them more than anyone.
I mean, Air Supply had those, like the guitar player who was the musical director was awesome. And he has like a younger band, and it just really, it seemed like a heavy metal band, really. It really did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. Like I said, the way you describe it and put it out there, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't think of it that way. And I'm like, man, the dude's right. And as I'm driving up here to over here to Linwood, short ride. I like start putting some songs on, and I'm like, yeah, talking. It's so beautiful what technology, the little bit that I know how to use, I'm like screaming into my phone, play this one, play that one. I'm like, wow, that's right. You know, Dave was right on point. So
It was so cool.
yeah, Mark, real quick, man. I wanted to thank you and Dave for joining me during the, I guess in the spring for the ACMike TV show with Stockton University Arts and Humanities. But we got talking a little bit and about your book, and I want to talk more about the book in a little bit. But I guess you could tie it in right now. Some of the interesting and cool, I mean, the interviews out there, folks, if you go on YouTube, you'll see Dave and Mark. But talk to our listening audience right now a little bit how you got started, bro, because I was sending it out to some of my buddies, some of that Wikipedia, and they're like, no way, he got arrested and he did this. So talk to our friends like that a little bit, please.
Well, it's really the book.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. It's all good. Live radio, brother.
The book was really, just my life story. It's the fruits of my success, how I started as a kid getting it, my first camera, mowing someone's lawn for the season, and then turning it into my passion and then in my interest of music and just being where the music was. And what better place to, be with your camera to document, to show your friends where you were, and then get all the adulation of what I did. And it kind of like brought me out of my shell. I was a shy kid. All of a sudden I have all these girls and cool dudes coming up to me, high-fiving me and chatting with me. And it kind of like took me out of my shell. And then in Jersey, when I turned 18, it was the bar scene. You could drink and be in the bar. So you had all these cover bands playing Led Zeppelin, AC/DC. And that's when I really started getting enthralled in this whole scene, and it just developed into the decade that rocked, which was the 80s hard rock and metal.
Right. And what a cool venture to venture into. And especially at that time, like you said, there's no social media, there's none of this. It's like, take the picture, hustle your ass in there somehow, get up by the stage, do your thing, the way you started. But like you said on a little while ago, you didn't let that arrest or get nudged around. That just like drove you more to, whether it was the girls or just the coolness or just listening to music, to hustle and get your ass in there and do that. And hey, man, you know what? People like these pictures just like I do. And before you know it, here you are, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years later. It's very cool because I was watching your stuff or looking at your stuff. I guess 83, I was a senior in high school, 56 years old. And I was like, man, look at these cool ass pictures and Bon Jovi and whatever not. Did you ever, here's my lead into it, like when you're doing it, because you're a young dude, right? At that time, were you like starstruck a little bit? Like, man, I'm listening to these dudes, but here I am. I'm kind of like directing them, how to take a picture and whatnot. How was that? Because that's what I always like, the behind the scenes stuff.
Well, my first like super duper rock star that I met, besides, Peter Frampton was, I was 19 and I went to his house to do his publicity photos. That was awesome.
Come on.
I was Peter Frampton, like 2 years earlier from that shoot. I'm sneaking in, selling my pictures for $1 a piece. And there I'm at his house taking his photos that's promoting his next album. So that was pretty cool. That's when I knew like, it's kind of cool hanging out with these rock stars. But then when I met Ozzy in my first photo shoot with Ozzy in 1981 for the cover Circus, and Ozzy was like, and I had the studio set up in the hotel and we had to get a cover. And, he's like, how's that, Mark? And I'm like, yeah, move to the left a little bit. And I'm not a super technical guy, but I know if you move to the left, certain people, they look good, or they move to the right, or I put the light there. So I started directing him because I have the vision on making him look good. He had a little bit of a double chin, so I had to move forward a little bit. So he's listening to me. So the Prince of Darkness listening to this 21-year-old punk kid that's just getting his feet wet, So
I love it.
The confidence to like really take over. And then, I started doing more covers. And then when Stay Hungry came out, I started doing album covers, and it just seemed like any album cover I did would go gold or platinum. And, there's a long list of covers that I did that, I'm really proud of to this day. People are still, looking at. I mean, vinyl's back, but it's really cool when I'm listening to Circus Radio, either it's Hair Nation or Ozzy Boneyard, and you see that image that I shot 30, 40 years ago on the screen. So I'm driving around listening to Bon Jovi, and all of a sudden, you know, Slippery When Wet, the album comes up, and there's my photo, and then Cinderella Night Songs pops up. I remember one time, 3 of them came up in a row. You know, 3 of my.
Oh my God.
So it was pretty cool. It's a good feeling.
That's got to be awesome. Listen, my only Ozzy story is, other than just going to the concerts, I had a buddy, Billy Cheatham, who was actually going to come with us to MobCon today. And Billy was just a madman as far as when it came to Ozzy. And we were wrestlers. So our coach, I give a shout out to Mr. Servey, because he was the only one that ever allowed us to play Ozzy Crazy Train during when we were working out. We would come out on the mat, just mohawks and all kinds of earrings on and crap like that. But it was Ozzy who drove us nuts. So, but that's so cool to have those things. And you're going to have to tell us about the Slippery When Wet story too, in a little bit, that cover. We got John from AC on the line, guys. Hey, John, welcome to the ACMike show. Is this my man, John M?
It's your man. How you doing?
What's up, brother? What's going on? Listen, we got some.
I call in every Sunday to make sure you're still with us and you're kicking it like the rest of us.
That's it, bro. You know, we're here. This is what we do. Got the coolest, I think, weekend gig. I mean, I don't want to work weekends. Who does? But it ain't like working when I used to work at the Department of Public Safety, which is a fancy name for the jail. No more of that. So here we're on radio having some fun, talking to Mark Weiss-Guy Weiss, David Pena from Boogie Nights. John, listen, you're a big music guy, right? I mean, this guy's taking photographs of the, you're a rock guy too. John, guys, is a heavy rock guy, loves the Beatles. I got to say that, the Beatles fan. Say hi to them, John.
How you doing, guys?
What up?
Hey, John.
Look, Mike, I called because I wanted to see if you could tell us what's going on next week. Give us a little preview.
Yeah.
And where are you doing the show on Saturday?
So we're probably going to do the show, John, just so we can cut out any problems, whether the technical, right here at 1601 Linwood. We got the governor calling in, Governor Murphy. So this is not a political thing, but you know he's going to talk all things AC, Atlantic City, New Jersey, and he's calling in at the 1 o'clock hour, and then at 2 o'clock we're going to have Pinky Kravitz's son, Greg Kravitz, who's Mr. Atlantic City, if to most people out here that know him.
That sounds like a pretty cool show.
Yep, it's going to be a good one. Hopefully you're around to join us. So just feel free to pop in wherever it is that we're at, whether it's 1601 or at the Glass Onion in Atlantic City.
I think I'm going to be barbecuing in front of the Glass Onion next Saturday. So you stop by when you're done, and I'll give you, 10, 12 hot dogs.
You know what we'll do? We'll have our own hot dog eating contest. Forget Nathan's. We're going to do our own thing in Atlantic City at the Ocean Club. We're going to do that. 3101. Come eat the hot dogs. John, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you, brother.
Have a great rest of the show. I just wanted to say hi and take it easy, guys.
You got it. Be seeing you soon, man. So Mark, folks, we got Mark Weiss-Guy Weiss, photographer, rock and roll photographer. We got David Pena, our friend, co-host with me on many, many different shows, and I love having him around because he has no energy. And listen. So Mark, tell us real quick, man, your Reader's Digest version of that Slippery When Wet photo.
Okay, well, it was going to be called Wanted Dead or Alive first, and I shot them in my studio. They all dressed up like Billy the Kid. They grew beards, shot them individually. So that was going to be it. And then when I went to Vancouver to do the shoot with them in an abandoned warehouse in regular clothes, we looked at it and we're like, we need something different. They didn't want to go that route. And then that's when the Slippery When Wet title came in. There was the number 5 club, and there was these road signs that were going down the roads, and I think Doc McGee, the manager, said, why don't we call Slippery When Wet, and we'll get some girl in the shower and wet her down, and there's the cover. So that's where that came from. And then it turned into being PMRC was happening 1980, about that same time, 85, 86. And they didn't want to jeopardize not being in Walmart and certain stores. So they decided not to use the girl after they printed like 500,000 copies of the 12-inch. And then it ended up being like a bar of soap. It said Slippery When Wet. No one knew about that. It's in the book the first time, a picture of it. And that didn't work out. I thought it was a bad idea. And then John just came up at the last minute. He goes, Mark, I'm coming up. Get me a black, plastic bag. and a water bottle so I can spray something. I want to write something on it. And he came over, I pinned it up on the background, and it's, you know, I sprayed the water bottle, and he wrote slippery when wet, and then he left. I'm like, don't you want to see the Polaroid? He's like, just take a picture, send it to the record company, let the music speak for itself. And, you know, who knew 30 years later,
crazy.
you know, it would be, my most famous album cover would be like that, as opposed to like, you know, my other covers that I spend all these hours building sets and everything else. So, you know,
That's cool, man. I mean, again, you just never know what's going to happen, what works, what sticks. And there it was, like you said, man, I want to put this artistic point into it or whatever. And just like, hey, man, that's art, right? It's just like, it's done. It's just like, you take the picture. So guys, listen, real quick. I want to mention this. You're sitting close to a gentleman near and dear downstairs, Scott Sandlin. Folks, if anybody's looking for a place to rent by, make sure you talk to Scott Sandlin of the Ocean Club Realty First. Scott's been working exclusively at the Ocean Club since 2013. All those pictures I take from my balcony, folks, they're right there from the Ocean Club. Make sure you talk to Scott. He'll help you if you have questions or you're still not sure. Call Scott at 484-620-9689. That's 484-620-9689. 689. Texting is okay with Scott. And remember, Ocean Club is Scott's world. He knows it inside and out. And what better place to buy a beach condo from a guy named Sandlin, right? Sandlin. Get it there. So again, 484-620-9689. So Mark, tell us, and Dave, tell us a little bit about that book there. And I want one of those signed ones. I'll pay for it, man. I want one. I need something like that to read. I get big, bold, whatever. Tell us about the book.
Well, it's on its fourth or maybe fifth reprint. They sold 10,000 already, and we've been waiting for another shipment of 10,000. So because of the pandemic, it's been tough to get the books from China. It's on a slow boat right now. I should have them pretty soon. I got like a handful where you can get bundles, different things on the decadethatrocked.com. Cool. Where I sign them and I personalize them to people. But yeah, we definitely got to get you a copy once I get my 1,000 from the 10,000 in, and then I get to market it myself and sell them on my website and things like that, and do book signings, which I'd love to do one down here in Atlantic City. Maybe I'll do one over at the Hard Rock where I have my photos at the Wentworth Gallery. You know, that could be cool.
Or Boogie.
And Boogie.
Or the Glass Onion. So listen, talking about Hard Rock, what a crazy place the Hard Rock was this weekend. Crazy in a great way. So with the book though too, you told a little story when you talked to Dave a few months ago about with your kids and your grandkids. You know what you were saying there. You wanted them to see something more than just pictures or hairband or whatever. So that kind of caught me like pretty cool, man. Touch on that a little bit, what your vision was for it at first, and then what it came to be.
Well, in the beginning, it was going to be, I just figured I didn't want to tackle this thing because I have 40 years of photography. Well, pretty much 10 years, but 40 years ago, I started shooting it because I wanted it to be something in that decade. And then I just thought the easiest thing would be just do the hair bands, do the hair bands. Between 1985, 1986, everyone had hairspray. So I had Ozzy, Bon Jovi, all these bands. And I just thought it would be an easy book to put out. And then after I started developing it, after a year, I was like, I don't really want this to be my first book to come out. I was enjoying the process of doing the book. And then we did it. I talked to the publisher, and we decided to turn it into more of my narrative of which is really what I wanted to do eventually, and I was ready at that point. So this is like 6 years ago, and then I just started doing 1 year at a time. I started with the early years, talked a bit about how I got my my first camera and how I got arrested. So I have some early Zeppelin in there from the 70s, and Peter Frampton and Aerosmith and Alice Cooper, kind of where I got my feet wet. And then it really dives into it in 1980 when AC/DC and Judas Priest and Van Halen. Ooh. These bands that I started, getting to know and being, getting assignments from magazines. So that's really where I started, then I said, you know what, let's call this the decade that rocked. From 1980 to 1990, it's a decade of solid rock and roll, and just talking about my my wild ride with all these guys. Some starting out, like first time I shot John was 1980, when he was a kid. He played Freehold Raceway, opening up for Southside Johnny and Daryl and Hall & Oates. And to the end of the decade where he headlined Giant Stadium and the Moscow
My
Peace Fest.
God.
So
Right.
in
That's
between
crazy.
is Bon Jovi's ride, as well as every other band, like whether it was Rat, Motley Crue, Ozzy, you know, any Quiet Riot, you know, anyone that
Wow.
you could think of from in hard rock and metal. I was there to document because I was working for all the magazines and doing their album covers, touring with them. So it's
Nice.
really my shoots that really shaped my photography. And then there'll be other books coming out after that. That's going to be more like more on the road. So it's almost a 400-page book, but there's so much I left out. So
Right.
it leaves for a lot more books coming out, 1980, 1981. So I have all these ideas coming up, but so it's fun. And right now, finally after the COVID, I've been promoting it online and doing all these Zoom interviews and whatnot. And
Right.
it worked out well because, you know, it kept selling out all these reprints, and it's in 4 languages as well. So now I get to go out and meet people and, you know, sign them and do book signings. So once the
Cool.
10,000 books come in, I'm going to go on some kind of book tour across the country.
So listen, folks, we're at the end of it. We're talking to Mark Weiss and Dave Pena of Boogie Nights, rock and roll photographer. We're almost at the end of it. We're going to have to get together when you come into Wentworth or wherever it is. Let's do it on a Thursday or Saturday, and we'll bring the show there too, and we'll have some fun, and people can sit down and like really blow it up during the week prior to promote it and what we're going to do. Because again, like you talked about 15 minutes ago, I'm like, well, how's another way that we can get this tied in and make it bigger and better than ever? Guys, I really appreciate you coming. One more time, Mark, tell people where they can get the book. And Mr. Pena over at Boogie Nights, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, it's off the hook. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, just go to the Decade That Rocked. That's the name of my book, and that's my brand. I do interviews. I put everything up there. This will be up there after I get it from you. And you know, I have interviews with people talking about the decade, talking about my photography, and then I have T-shirts. I have different bundles. You can get my photographs that I sign and use as art prints. And yeah, so you go to the decadethatrocked.com. It has my social media on there. So the easiest thing is to go to the Decade That Rocked.
There you go, Mr. Pena. We'll be talking to you guys in a little bit.
Thank you, Mike.
We're going to close. We're going to go to MobCon, folks. If you want to go out there, I still got a couple tickets. ACMike mug. Listen, we're going to close to Sinatra. We're talking rock, but Mark Weiss and David Pena, they did it their way. Folks, live, work, play AC. James, thank you for what you do in the producer's box.
Anytime, buddy.
Guys, I'll see you soon. Muchos gracias.
Mucho, mucho amor.
Much more than this, I did it my way.